We're going to go live, letting everybody in.
Hi, everyone. All right. Can you all hear me? Yeah, okay. Thanks for joining. We have just a couple of updates and I'll dive in. We have 1,826 cases and 74 fatalities in all. Just a reminder that today is the second and last day of the Great Give, and everyone should be donating to their favorite nonprofit if they have the capacity to do so. I think it ends at 8. Is that right, Kirsten?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. So I'm hoping the press can get that information out there, that this is a competition and so many nonprofits are participating, and now is a time more than ever where there's a ton of need for nonprofits. And so if people do have the capacity, I hope they contribute to their favorite nonprofit. I don't have a ton of other updates on my end. I wanted to hand it over to Director Bond. Do you have anything on your end?
I don't have any major updates since my report yesterday.
Okay. So the city received a $200,000 grant from the EPA for brownfield remediation, and we just wanted to share that on the call as well. And Mike or Helen, maybe you could give a little bit of a summary of that grant.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll start it off and then I'll hand it over to Helen for some more details. This is a long-standing partnership that the city has with the Environmental Protection Agency. So as you know, the city has a long and storied history of industrial development, and we have many properties that were left vacant over time because of environmental contamination. What makes it hard to redevelop those properties is the competition against other sites that may already be clean. And under Connecticut state law, there's a lot of responsibility borne on the existing owner or the polluter, and it takes some time to navigate that. One of the ways we do that is by teeing these properties up through assessment grants. We try to ready the properties and then identify a suitable redeveloper so that we can create jobs at the city and put these back into productive use. We have been most successful in the Mill River District and in the River Street District. It is a journey that both Helen and I have been on for about 20 years now. This particular grant looks at some of the properties that have not yet been redeveloped on the River Street corridor. If you're familiar with it, that's where Arts to Frames just went in the Opportunity Zone. Capasso construction is down in that corridor. So it's a really wonderful section of the city with a cherished both historic history and some vacant property that you can build from scratch. So Helen, maybe you could talk a little bit about this round of the brownfield funding and what our goals are.
So this will allow completion of characterization, environmental characterization of these 3 properties. 142 River Street, which at one time was New Haven pipe bending, and those buildings came down a few years ago because they had deteriorated beyond the point of being able to be safe. But that is a 2-acre site that's right adjacent to the 8-acre Hess Terminal site that Hess has cleaned up and the city acquired a few years ago. So once we know what's required to clean up 142 River Street, developer comes along, and we've had interest, but you know, the developer's ready to move ahead on all 10 acres. We'll know what's needed to be done to clean up these 2 acres, and there won't be significant delays in getting that done. And then there's a smaller site, 112 Chapel Street, on the corner of, actually 3 corners, River, Poplar, and Chapel. That's about 25,000 square feet, and it's actually adjacent to a property of about equivalent size that may or may not become available, but it's possible that this site could become 1.25 acres, and that would be, either size would be suitable for small contractor or other type of similar type of use, or to support bigger developments on the city's site that's available at 46 to 56 River Street. That's a 3-acre site. So this is, and then there's a half-acre on the former Regan Metals site, which we don't own, but we're collecting environmental information on in order to prepare to make an offer or not make an offer, but that site could also be used to support surrounding developments, which we anticipate since there's been a lot of interest lately in the River Street area.
Thanks, Helen. That's great. And I did want to take a moment to, I know that Mike and in particular Helen have been working on these, both the Mill River and the River Street plans for many, many years, and the incredible amount of effort. These projects take a lot of time that you have put in. It has dramatically changed this section of the city and laid the groundwork for a lot more future development. So thanks for all of your work on that.
Great, thank you.
And then we have one other update from Kirsten and Susanna that is exciting about a partnership with New Haven Public Schools. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. And so Read to Grow is absolutely thrilled to partner with New Haven Public Schools and New Haven Reads to initiate the launch of a book distribution program on Fridays at 12 school sites across the city. Read to Grow has been giving out books to kids for more than 20 years, like New Haven Reads. And especially with the announcement from Governor Lamont yesterday about school being closed for the remainder of this school year, we know that getting books into the hands of kids that need them most can dramatically change students' trajectories, and literacy is just so important for the future leaders of our community. So we are working with other partners as well in terms of funding and sourcing books, and we'll get into those details. I'm going to turn it over to Kirsten to talk about New Haven Reads and the site selection for this distribution.
Yes, thank you. We are likewise excited to be working with Read to Grow and with the Board of Ed in getting books out. You know, while we are pivoting our usual in-person tutoring now to distance learning, all we could think about is what about all the other kids and what else could we do? So this became pretty much an obvious idea for us in terms of getting books out at the meal distribution sites. And I just want to say that it's been great to work with Mike Pinto. He's been very accessible and just terrific to help make this happen. And then if you could move up to the next slide. This is what we worked out with Mike in terms of how we chose the schools. We were looking at basically two different issues. One is we were trying to provide books in a wide geographic area. So this is what this map shows of where we were trying to reach. We were also looking at which schools provided the most meals. And each of the dots there represents a school that provides about, well, between 100 and I think 500 meals a day. So that's kind of how we chose those schools. We are also have a few schools that we are considering to add on to the list as the numbers are increasing. So I just want you to know it's a very fluid list. And there's the list itself. And there are 12 schools there, and Read to Grow and New Haven Reads has each taken 6.
Thank
and
you.
in
Go
terms
ahead.
of, sorry to interrupt, I just wanted to reiterate the logistics. So the book distribution is only happening on Fridays, starting this Friday. It'll be from 10 to 12, so during that typical meal distribution time, not starting at 9, but starting at 10 to 12 on Fridays, every week through the end of June. And then we'll take a look and see if we can restart with the summer meal programs once that gets going in July. And this will happen rain or shine. Again, in the same location in the front of the buildings where the meals are being distributed, all of the book distribution will happen outside of the school building. There will be a table set up at each of those 12 sites with signs identifying that that's the table where you can go to get books. And the books being given out are primarily for preschool through 8th grade. And I don't know if Kirsten had any other details that she wanted to add about safety.
Yeah, so one other thing with safety, this was something that was very much in the forefront of our planning process, is to develop protocol to keep everyone safe. The volunteers who are giving out the books, the parents who are collecting them, and also the food distribution people. We contacted the Yale COVID hotline twice to talk to them, to talk through what we had planned, and they gave some added suggestions to ensure that everyone was being safe. And primarily what we're looking at is all volunteers have to wear masks, they have to wear gloves, we're keeping 6-foot distance from everyone. So we are very much concerned about safety with this distribution.
Thank you so much for moving this forward. What an incredible idea, particularly because there's so many kids that are, I think, feeling pretty isolated at home, and the challenge of online learning. And this is just another way to interact with kids and help support their reading. So appreciate you coming up with the idea and making it happen. And thanks to Mike Pinto for everything you do. And this is just one more thing to add to the list. Why don't we open it up to questions? Shayna.
Hi, Mayor. Thanks so much for taking my question. I know yesterday you guys, along with Director Bond, were talking about the newest numbers and the hotspots that you were going to release, and you did release them. I wanted to know, as far as the last time we spoke, I know that there was concern about certain areas in New Haven that are considered hotspots, like Dixwell and New Hallville. Can you kind of talk about, or maybe Director Bond can maybe also address this, either one, about those hotspots that you're seeing, and maybe if there are any differences from the last time you released similar statistics in this form?
So I'm happy to pull it up on the screen in just a sec, but there are no major, unless Director Bond, correct me if I'm wrong, no major changes in the trends. And the fact that we have more testing sites available means that we have more data that helps us confirm that those trends are likely not what we previously just suspected were issues, but now it confirms that there are issues, that there are many more people in Black and Brown communities in New Haven that are getting COVID-19, and in particular getting hospitalized. I can pull up the map that Gage sent out via email yesterday as well in a sec. Director Bond, I don't know if you have anything to add.
I just want to add, I think I concur with what the mayor just mentioned, is adding that now that we've been decreasing the unknown of race and ethnic backgrounds, we have a better collection of the data now. And so we really are starting to see, if you see that, that's been the biggest change since what we've last reported. Our heat maps pretty much have been steady as we've been reporting previously, but now we have a more accurate account of where the race and ethnic communities that are being most affected. And so as you can see, the unknown was close to 50% a few weeks ago, and we're now down to 32% with all of the interventions in trying to promote and ensure that accurate data is being reported. And so this is very helpful for us as we're developing public health interventions and monitoring the pandemic in our city.
How important continue, I'm sorry.
It's a little bit hard to speculate, but you notice the percentage of COVID positive African American and Latinx, Black and African American and Latinx individuals is now about equal, and previously there were more African Americans as a percentage. It's hard to know why. We have significantly increased as a city, primarily because of the community health centers testing in the communities. And so it may not be an indication that there is a change in the virus's spread, rather that there's more widespread testing that better reflects what's going on overall in the community.
Correct.
How important has this this heat map and this data been as far as contact tracing? I know Director Bond, we've talked maybe last week along with some of the contact tracers that have been recruited. Can you kind of talk to me about how kind of disseminating this information has been helpful as far as contact tracing for the pandemic?
Absolutely. So as I've mentioned in the past, that, you know, our primary goal is really to try to identify positive cases, isolate, quarantine, and then contact tracing, so that we can then couple that with testing throughout the city and scale up so that we can make sure that we are boxing in the pandemic as much as possible. So what we've been doing with this data metrics that you see in front of you is conducting assessments within the different communities, and then scaling up walk-up testing capacities or partnerships with our federally qualified health centers, for example, to scale up testing in different communities to make sure that people have access to testing, as well as ensuring that we're sharing, you know, any resources and communications and interventions that we've done over the course of the pandemic. So this has been very informative in knowing where we need to prioritize our efforts and also scale up testing, as we are currently doing an assessment now to expand and scale up by appointment walk-up testing sites throughout the city.
Gotcha. I guess one final follow-up question, and I'll let someone else continue, would be as far, don't laugh at me, Mayor, I see you laughing. I'm asking a lot of questions. He's gonna say I hit a new record.
Yeah, you did. That's good though. We like questions, diverse questions.
Okay, good. So I guess my final question, the last, before I continue, I may have a follow, but for the map that you're showing, and I think Mayor, you alluded to it, the prior statistics were obviously before a lot of these new sites in New Haven were in operation, and so are there more interventions on the way for these particular neighborhoods as far as messaging goes? I know Director Bond, you've talked about increasing messaging from the city's perspective. Can you both kind of address that?
Yeah, we have a Mask It Up campaign that's going on right now, where we are really trying to ensure that we are working with local community individuals that can serve as our community messengers. And so we have really leveled up our billboards that are set throughout the city. And so we wanted to make sure that we strategically have billboards throughout the city that are going to be within these heat map areas, and also engaging, you know, younger populations that are impacted, that could be impacted by COVID-19. So one of the data metrics that we are looking at is that we know positive cases are 46% of our cases are 25 to 49. And although the mortality rate is targeted specifically around the elderly population, we know that the younger populations are also testing positive and are often carriers. And so we want to make sure that we're utilizing community messengers, and we're also looking at other ways that we can expand our messaging campaign as well.
Just one other thing to add. I sent out a robocall last night to an area of a 1 mile radius around the Chapel Street, Day Street site. And we're exploring, it's early, but we're exploring options to set up additional sites in other areas of the city. Because we've realized that accessibility to the sites is something that's really important, that the sites on Long Wharf that have a lot of capacity, even if, you know, we've set up even a taxi system that's for free to get people there, but the fact of someone being able to walk down the block to get tested means they're way more likely to get tested than if they have to go through a number of steps. And so we've realized that setting up those neighborhood sites is really important.
And the neighborhoods are still the same as far as Dixwell, New Hallville, as far as the hotspots?
Yeah, they're the same. And we also worked with our, you know, alders as community messengers through our social media outlets. And so we want to make sure that, you know, not just top down, bottom up. So we're engaging all communities to work with this effort together.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll come back to you if you have more questions, all right?
Okay. I've hit a new record.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, everyone. I have a few questions for Kirsten and Susanna. Thanks so much for that presentation. It sounds like a very exciting new partnership. Could you speak to how many books each student will be able to take? And where are these books coming from? You said parents are involved in collecting them. Where are these books coming from?
Yeah, so I
go
think
ahead.
that the response is a little bit different based on the organization. Read to Grow partnered with RJ Julia Booksellers and to raise funds to buy new books from publishers. So they've been drop shipped to the field house and they've been quarantined, and then they will go to the boxes are waiting at the school sites. And there will be one title per grade level grouping. So we'll have kindergarten through second grade, third through fifth grade, and sixth through eighth grade. So if a eighth grader comes up to the table this Friday, they'll get one book. If they come back the next Friday, they'll get another book. If they come back every Friday through June, that ends up being 7 to 8 titles total that they'll get. Likewise for the younger grade levels as well.
And we have a different distribution system. As you know, Tom, we have a book bank where we have a huge number of gently used books. So that's our primary source of books. And we have put a call out to our network, and we've had an incredible response from people with donations, and also some publishers and some local authors are donating brand new books. So in a similar fashion, we are quarantining the books when they get dropped off. And then New Haven Reads is then sorting them, as Susanna described, by grade levels. And we are putting them into paper bags to give to the families. In our part, the books will be different. And part of the putting into paper bags is to keep them clean. But the other part is we didn't want parents to try the book to find the best book for their child, or to try to look around to see, well, maybe they want, instead of 3rd through 5, they might want 6 through 8. It just seemed better just to put them in it'll be a mystery book that they will get for their child. But they'll get one every week, as Susanna described.
And who will be giving out these books? You mentioned volunteers. Are these volunteers that New Haven Reads and Read to Grow are gathering and training? They're not the food service people from public schools. These are different.
Correct. Yeah, our own volunteers.
And in some cases, our own staff as well, but no food service employees are handing out books.
Yeah, Tom, we were just in putting together the partnership. I mean, our folks are pretty busy handing out food right now. So it was the fact that Read to Grow and New Haven Reads were able to step up with volunteers made this partnership a lot easier.
And where do people go if they're interested in volunteering to hand out books or to give books to you all?
So for if people are interested in giving us books, to donate books, they would contact our book bank director directly to schedule a drop-off. And that would be, the email is books@newhavenreads.org to contact her. Her name's Victoria Smith. She's wonderful. And the way the book drop-off is done is they schedule a particular time. They leave the books at our 45 Bristol Street, ring the doorbell and leave. So again, no contact. And in terms of volunteers, at least for New Haven Reads, it would be the same way, just to contact Victoria at that email address.
And with Read to Grow, the easiest thing to do is just to email readtogrow@readtogrow.org. whether it's about a donation, monetary, or a book donation, or if somebody wants to volunteer, and we will reply very quickly.
Thanks. Mary, I've got a few other questions, but I'm happy to defer to it to anyone else who wants to ask.
Okay, let's go to Michael, and then we'll come back to you, Tom. Thanks.
Thank you and good afternoon. Going back to the testing issue for Director Bond, do you have data at this point on the actual numbers of tests performed so far on any or all of the 5 test sites in the city? I know the city doesn't administer them all, but do you have for any of them to date?
I do have that. We have that available. Maybe tomorrow's presser we can show a diagram.
Okay, that'd be great.
Tomorrow.
And are you confident at this point that the target population, and I guess that's all of us, are getting the message that at this point they can more easily get tested now and they don't need a physician's referral as they did before with the Yale New Haven site and the CVS site, and they don't need even to be symptomatic? Do people know that? And do you feel like the word is getting out adequately?
So I think to the mayor's point earlier, yesterday we had a robocall to the within the 1 mile radius within that particular testing site. We have posted all of the testing sites that are available to the community on our city website, our social media platform, and we invite each of you on this presser to also share our website with all of the testing sites so that we can make sure that people know that they have access to testing and the options that are available and what type of testing.
Okay, thank you. So we can catch up tomorrow on some numbers of tests.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's just really important to be clear about if you do put information out about the testing sites, that you check out our website, because it outlines which sites. There's only one where you need a physician's recommendation, that's the New Haven Hospital. Correct. All of the other ones, they don't, but all of the other ones have different ways to enroll or to sign up for testing. And so it's important, it can be very helpful for the press to get that information out, because there's enough information, it can be confusing for people.
Exactly.
I understand, thank you.
Yep. Kyle, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to check in with Director Bond. I know about a month ago we did a story talking about the messaging program, the C-Click Fix, all of that. I was just wondering how that promotion has gone and whether or not you see a good use of the C-Click Fix for COVID-19.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking that, Kyle, because I failed to mention earlier that we also put city banners throughout, 2 different areas, downtown and Willie Avenue, on Spread the Fact, Not the Virus, and also just with some brief messaging and promoting our hotline. So please, when you get a chance, check out the banners. But the C-Click Fix complaint portal has been effective. We've been monitoring that through our team, and then diverting it to the respective individual that needs to respond. And so we have been, that's been a useful resource so that our hotline can be freed up specifically for people that are symptomatic and have questions are relating COVID-19 or needs to get assistance with scheduling testing at one of the testing sites. So our public health nurses can be really targeted for that. So it's been very useful.
Okay, great, thank you. Engage was helpful as well as looking at some of that information. But I had a question about the information where people are reporting the gatherings. Who responds to that? Would it be the police?
Correct. So right now we've had about 170 total requests through C-Click Fix. 70 were specifically related to COVID. 49 were relating to gatherings, which would then be directed to someone in PD. 49 were business for the health department questions relating specific businesses, and then 6 on city policies and closure questions. And so each of those different categories have a point of contact and department that will then be responsible for getting a response back to that inquiry.
Okay. And then my last question is, I know when all of this began and we started talking about the different restrictions for businesses as far as occupancy and mask wearing, how are you guys policing, well, didn't mean to use policing, but monitoring that, and how is that going?
So that was, the mayor did a robocall when it first went into in place, in English and Spanish, and then we, we have worked through ensuring that we monitor that through complaints. So if complaints come in, which they do often and daily, we make contact with any businesses or establishments of concern. And so that's how we've been monitoring it, through the C-Click Fix, and then sometimes through our hotline, they're still coming in and they get filtered that way.
Yeah, I think it's mostly complaint driven, rather than us, searching for problems out there and doing inspections. We found, frankly, that there's a lot of people that have been reporting things, and we'll send someone out. And I know that you didn't intentionally use this word, but we're very intentional not to make this feel like policing, because we want people to comply. We don't want to make people feel like this is some sort of police state or anything like that. It's the opposite. Doing the right thing for the community means complying with these guidelines and recommendations, and that's what we're hoping people will do voluntarily.
Yeah, and I think I want to add to that. Yesterday, for example, as proactive approaches, the city gave out about 50,000 masks, Mayor, that was given out yesterday. So that's another proactive approach that we've been utilizing as a mechanism to support the community, and so that we can be able to support, local businesses, for example. And we get inquiry about PPE requests with small practices. So we want to be able to be proactive in supporting local stakeholders that we serve, or are providing a service.
Okay, so it sort of builds a relationship that way.
Absolutely.
Great.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's go to Allie.
Hi guys, I'm from WNPR Connecticut Public Media. Just wondering if you know if or how many tests, or if it's running rampant within the homeless community. Have you guys been able to monitor that at all in New Haven?
So just to be clear, since there's no indication that the COVID-19 is running rampant within the homeless community, we are similar to other populations. We're making tests available to anyone who goes to one of the sites, and people, if they do not have internet to sign up for any of these sites, they can also call the health department hotline, 203-946-4949. And also yesterday was the beginning of a drop-in site at Blake Fields in New Haven, where individuals experiencing homelessness can come by and get services, including support getting tested for COVID-19. Does that answer your question, Ellie?
That does, thank you.
Awesome. Let's go back to Tom.
Thanks. So I think maybe about an hour ago, the governor's office published a report that was written by former Yale president Rick Levin and former vice president Linda Lorimer. And I haven't read through the report. I'm sure there are lots of interesting details in there, but it's about how to initiate a phased reopening of colleges and universities throughout the state. And Mayor, I wonder if you could speak to what you see as City Hall's responsibilities in terms of the relationships that you currently have, and how you build on top of those with Yale, with SESU, with Albertus. What do you think the city should be doing to ensure a safe reopening come the fall? And any other conversations? I know you've spoken a lot over the past couple of weeks about negotiations with Yale about putting up first responders or police officers or anything like that. So if you could also speak to the latest in city conversations with Yale in particular, that'd be great.
Sure, I appreciate the question. I haven't seen the report yet, so I can't comment specifically on the report. I think that we bear a mutual responsibility to help each other out. And that comes in many different forms depending on the university and the level of resources. Obviously, for the New Haven economy, students that are coming, in particular with Yale University, but also the other universities to the region, are vital to the success of our economy. And I've spoken with Peter Salovey a number of times about the fact that we're very ready to help support Yale in any way that Yale needs to make sure that it is able to safely open up classes again. And the foundation of our approach to universities, I think, in many ways doesn't differ from our approach to any community, in that if one community gets sick, it's not like the virus stays within that community. There's a lot of interaction across many different communities, and so it's important for us all to focus on keeping each other safe. As far as, are there particular things that we could be doing as a city to help out the universities? There's been no requests that have been made to us about specific actions we can take, but we're very, very open to helping support all of the universities, and hopeful that we will be at a point later in this year where universities will be able to open up because of the economic impact that that will positively have on the city. I'm not sure if that answered your question, Tom, but.
No, that was very helpful. And if you, could you also give an update on just the most recent conversation or conversations you've had with Yale University leadership about anything COVID related?
Sure. So we've had a lengthy back and forth about an agreement, a contract that would allow our first responders to be that are COVID positive to be housed at the university. We're close to a resolution there. In the meantime, we've had a total of 2 first responders stay at the university at separate times. So there's been only 1 first responder at any time in the dorms. And currently there are no first responders in dorms. As far as other interactions with the university about ways that we can partner, the university has been generous to provide some funding to nonprofits in the city, as has been reported by the press. And I think the community is very grateful for that.
Yeah, and for the health department, the Yale University has approached us in interest in supporting our testing abilities and expansion. So we're having conversations with Yale University relating that effort. And of course, contact tracing is another collaboration where we have volunteers supporting our contact tracing efforts.
Thank you for that. And then I have one more question for you, Mayor, about Bike New Haven, the bike share program that announced yesterday that they'll be indefinitely pulling, well, they pulled their bikes 4 months ago from the city, but the bikes won't be coming back anytime soon. But we still have all those ad panels and bike racks all over the city. So I just wonder your thoughts on, I mean, I'm sure this is relatively low on the priority list, and yet something that past city administration worked very hard to bring to the city, and something that a lot of other cities have. What do you make of Bike New Haven's decision to not serve New Haven for the foreseeable future? And is this something that we should even think of having during a pandemic?
So it's unfortunate for many reasons, and I think that it's been quite clear that there were issues before the pandemic began. We're reviewing the contract in particular to address some of the potential issues around the signs that are up. I think it's quite clear that New Haven embraces cycling as an alternative form of transportation. And this is one of many ways that we should be, bike sharing is one of many ways that we should be promoting more access for so many people to transportation, ways to address climate change, ways to ensure that getting from one place to another is not costly, ways to reduce the number of accidents in the city. And it's an unfortunate loss. My hope is that it's a temporary loss.
That's it for me. Thanks so much.
Other questions? Other questions?
I have a comment while people are thinking about if they have further
Maybe
questions.
save your comment for the end, because I think it's a nice closing comment. So if you don't mind, Director Bond. Go ahead, Shana.
Just wanted to clarify. I know you mentioned earlier about the hotspots, and you guys are looking at different, you said you're looking at different possible locations for testing sites, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's it. Just wanted to clarify that.
Director Bond, your closing comment.
Hi, everyone. So I just wanted to recognize publicly our public health nurses who've been so diligently working on COVID-19 response when the schools were closed. And so it's National Nurses Week. Today is School Nurses Day. So I just wanted to say thank you to our New Haven Health Department, school nurses, and public health nurses that are out, working really hard to respond to this pandemic and all of the frontline work that they're doing, as well as other nurses throughout New Haven, and just say thank you from the city of New Haven.
Thanks, Director Bond. I appreciate that. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Great. Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, everyone.